Sawayama broke out in 2017 with her really exciting EP, which turned a lot of heads in the indie music world. It seemed as though she was going to be a huge breakout pop star based on the fantastic EP that she gave us, and it was quite a rare moment, I think, in indie music where someone came through with such a bursting, colourful pop EP, and it seemed as though she could easily break out into the mainstream at any given moment with the music that she was giving us. Produced entirely by Clarence Clarity, who's been turning a lot of heads in the indie music world for quite some time. I've loved his previous albums, especially his most recent album, but it seemed as though this was going to be the project for him that would certainly push him further into the starlight. And of course, having Rina, such a fantastic performer, it seemed as though to me and many other people that it was pretty much set in stone that she was going to be so huge. And I still think even with this new album here, she could even become as huge as many people expected her to become. The EP had so many great pop songs on it, and it had this sort of nostalgic twist to it that made you sort of instantly think of the 2000s, particularly artists such as Britney Spears. I think that was one name that got mentioned quite often with that EP, and it was pretty clear to see why. She had a lot of charisma, a lot of personality. She just had so much flair and so much going for her that it just seemed as though that she was going to be so huge. But leading up to this album, it seems as though she didn't want to just pigeonhole, kind of like push herself into a corner and just be one thing, because each single that she's given us leading up to this album has been quite different to the previous one. The clear noticeable change is the rock influence, and even you could go as far as saying nu metal influence on some of these tracks. The lead single, Shut the Fuck Up, which definitely sounds like early 2000s nu metal, like it just sounds straight out of that era. I don't know if anyone was expecting that. Like, was anyone expecting that? I know a lot of artists have started to do that with a lot of their singles. Grimes did it towards the end of 2018, I think it was. We've seen Poppy become that huge name in that field at the moment. And for me, it's been a bit of a mixed bag of response, because as cool as it is to do that, I don't know if it's adding anything new to what we've already heard before. And to be honest, I thought Rina's strengths were just going to be some great pop bangers. And this album, to be honest, was not quite the album I was wanting from her. To go from the EP that was so great to this album is a massive letdown. Like, she is not what I was expecting to be, and I think this album will appeal to a lot of people who like various different genres, who like to jump from different ideas song to song from an album. But as a cohesive project, I mean, it's a bit of a mess. It would be fine if this album was a bit all over the place, but consistently stayed strong in the genres that it was dabbling in. Because at the end of the day, it would still be an all over the place album, but at least the songs that she was giving us and the songs that Clarence Clarity was producing were of top quality. But to me, they're not. Like, the really, really weak dabbles in these genres just leave so much to be desired. Like, I just don't know if she's pulling off so many of these ideas as well as I think she's hoping to. I think the album sort of gets you to think that it's going to be one thing to begin with, because Dynasty is this really like dramatic symphonic rock tune, honestly reminding me of Evanescence of all bands. And that sort of sets the tone. It's like, oh, this is going to be an extravagant, bold, big album that's just filled with this swirling rock instrumentation from front to back. And it's not. Like, it just doesn't stick to that at all. It does for like the first couple of songs, and then it just ditches it. And I'm just kind of wondering why we didn't get a bit more of a smooth sailing listen. Like, why did it just bounce around all these different genres? I don't know. Because later in the album you get tracks like Paradise in, and it honestly just sounds like an all-time low song to me. Like, I just hear that really cheap pop punk influence on there that just really reeks of that early 2010s, maybe late 2000s pop punk era that was just kind of like saturated by bands who were honestly just pop bands but didn't really want to call themselves pop bands. Paradise in, Living My Best Life, Thriving. A lot of lines like this stick out in the album, just really not well thought out rhymes, and generally just lyrics that don't really appeal to me that well. Just, I don't know, man. Maybe it's because the songs aren't that strong that the lyrics stick out in a poorer way than they would have, but I just can't get with this. Akasanka Sad has a messy chorus, man. Just the way she's singing on that just kind of sounds really awkward and clunky. I don't really feel like what she's attempting to go for is pulled off particularly very well. I like the way that she's trying to be a bit weird and a bit strange with what she's doing, but again, just not really appealing to my ears, to be honest. Lines like, I guess I'll be sad forever, just so melodramatic, man. Like, I don't know, I was just reading through some of these lyrics and it was kind of like brain numbing at points, just listening to the way she writes some of these songs. It's just very simple and on the nose. Bad Friend is a great example of that as well. Just, I don't know, I just think she has more in her than this. I think she has a lot more talent than she's displaying on this album, to be honest. I do think one of the best tracks here is XS. This was one of the singles leading up to it. I think that weird like guitar riff that kind of like breaks out of nowhere, kind of just like spazzes out of control at random parts in the song, is a really clever mix. Like, this to me seemed like Rina was attempting to blend some ideas together but keep her own identity for who she is as a pop singer. She's a bit quirky, she's a bit strange, but she's not just dabbling in random genres and not really pulling them off very well. It felt very much like this was a unique pop star who could pull off a great catchy song that's so like reminiscent of like the greatest moments we got from like Nelly Furtado or something, and still have her own little quirk to it. Because I've already mentioned Bad Friend, and to me that honestly sounds a lot like that Clean Bandit song. Shout out to Stefan because he pointed that out as well. The I Miss You song, which is sung by Julia Michaels, not a particularly good song, not a particularly good singer, but Rina is leagues above that kind of stuff to me. Like, she can sing well, she can produce a great pop song, but here I'm just not hearing it. Same with Chosen Family as well. Not really feeling the way this one's produced. It's incredibly clean, a bit saccharine at points as well. Too sickly and sweet for my taste. But I at least appreciate the lyrics though, the way she's talking about how, you know, you have your own families, but sometimes they aren't exactly there for you in the way that you want them to be. So you will ultimately choose your own family, the people that are around you that truly understand who you are, they get you, they accept you for who you are. Like, these lyrics are incredibly strong and passionate, but I'm not sure if the way the track sounds is for my taste particularly. And another thing that annoys me here as well is that there aren't really many other tracks on the album that just give me that passion in terms of the lyrics. Like I've already mentioned a few times, there are too many moments where the lyrics stand out in a bad way. In terms of more positives though, because I don't want to continue going on and on about negativities about this album, because there are things I like, but there just aren't too many tracks I think I would ever really return to. But I think the track Tokyo Love is a pretty solid one. The chorus does remind me of her previous song Cherry though, which came out in 2018. It was a standalone single that hasn't made it onto the album or any other album for that matter, but I think that actually is one of her best tracks, and this chorus reminds me a lot of her singing on that one. So yeah, you know, it is a bit similar to what she's done before, but at least it's playing to her strengths and she does it well. I guess Love Me for me has a similar sort of feel to Chosen Family in terms of the lyrics, although it is pretty on the nose once again I think here, and musically it reminds me of something Bruno Mars would sing over, especially that woo that comes in on the chorus. It really sounds a lot like his song Finesse, and that's one thing I kind of get a bit peeved about with this album, is that too many tracks just remind me of other songs that already exist. I mean, I hate doing that in reviews where you're constantly comparing songs to other songs by other artists, But this album left me no choice, because this really did sound like an a culmination, an amalgamation of so many different artists kind of being thrown in to one album. And it's totally okay to have your influences, but I think for a debut album, it's a little bit dangerous to be getting compared to so many other artists around there already, because you wanna cement yourself, you wanna make a name for yourself, you wanna show what you've got to offer. And I do think only a few times on this album I feel like I'm getting the Rina I think is breaking free, and I'm feeling like, yes, this is a unique artist right here. Just like on Who's Gonna Save Me Now, I think that is one of the more unique tracks here. Who's Gonna Save You Now, sorry I misspoke there, but yeah, I think Clarence Clarite's production on here is fantastic. I think the over-the-top kind of like stadium anthem sports moment, like the big sports event feel to the track is incredibly cinematic and dynamic too. Like, this track does feel way more vibrant and out there than so many of the other tracks on this album to me. But yeah, you know, that one and XS to me are highlights. These are good, really good Rina Sawayama songs that I think I would play on a regular basis, and even Shut the Fuck Up too. But I don't know, man, something about this album just feels off to me. I can't quite describe what it is, but I think it is a bit all over the place. And again, I think if the songs were stronger, that wouldn't be a problem, because it would show that she's versatile, it would show that she's willing to dabble into so many different styles and make it her own. But I don't know if she's quite making it her own, to be honest. This is a disappointment, man. This is sad. I don't know. I feel weird about this album. Like, this was meant to be like one of my favorites. You know, I was ready to shill this album, to send it to all my friends and be like, look, this is the next big thing. Here it is. And it hasn't quite turned out that way. It wasn't meant to be this way. It really wasn't. I was dead set on calling this one of my favorite albums of the year, slapping an 8 out of 10 on it, you know, giving it a high recommendation. But it ended up being a mixed bag. It's kind of a letdown. It's sad, but I guess I would go with a 5.5 out of 10. Just not really willing to return to many of these tracks at all. A huge disappointment for me, but I guess it is how it is. Some artists just do that sometimes. But I think this will appeal to a lot of people. I think a lot of people will end up loving this, and I hope a lot of people do as well, because I think it's just a bit of a disappointment for me. But maybe, you know, a year down the line I'll go back to it and maybe it'll click. I don't know, we'll see. But for now, not really feeling this one. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on this album. Hopefully you enjoyed it more than I did. If you agree with me, let me know in the comments. I'd love to know. If you disagree, also let me know. I would love to hear what you have to say. And thank you for watching my review. Sorry that it was a bit of a letdown of an album, but it is what it is. Let me know what you think. Thank you, and subscribe. Have a good day, and goodbye.